Welcome to Amiga Ireland. I'm Irla.
I'm Rob.
And I'm Luke.
In today's episode, we have a quick word with the donor of an Amiga 500 and many extras to the Computer Museum in Galway, Ireland.
A quick look at Zelda fan-made games for the Amiga.
And we will talk about Mega 65.
How is everybody doing? Rob, what's up with you?
Not sure where the last month has gone. I was in Ireland for a few days. It was like my son's second birthday, so got him over there to get spoilt by the grandparents and all that. Been outdoors in some lovely weather. We've had some cracking weather over here. Yeah. And then in between, I've managed to pick up Zelda again. So I have had Breath of the Wild for the last 2 years or so, and I had only played about 5 hours of it, and it's a phenomenal game. Absolutely phenomenal game. Every time I looked at it on the shelf, I was like, oh, that's so terrible. It's just sitting there. So the odd hour here and there, I've been getting back into it, and it's a work of art. Like, so That's been sucking up every spare second I get.
Which version are you playing? Which machine?
The Wii U, actually.
Wii U. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, the copy I have is the Wii U version, and it's lovely. It's great.
Well, I'm just about struggling with the heat today. I actually went for an ice cold shower just before we met to record. I was reading there we've actually had the hottest month on Earth ever recorded in history. Just gone there in June, I think. The hottest month. That's absolutely insane.
It's mental.
Yeah. But other than that, at home we've actually started putting an effort into recycling better and kind of not buying things that need to be recycled and stuff like that. So we've been trying out new things. I don't know if you've ever heard of these lads, a shampoo bar. So it's like a bar of soap, but it's shampoo for your hair.
No, never.
No, but that makes sense.
Yeah, it works. It works really well, and there's no plastic to throw in the bin afterwards. I'm surprised they're not everywhere. Really,
very good.
It seems to be. I'm only using it a week now, but I don't really see a difference between that and the stuff you get in a bottle. And we've also bought bamboo toothbrushes. That's another
very
thing.
good.
Yeah, and we'll see what my dentist thinks of my mouth when I go see him in a few months' time. And other than that, I was playing a lot of Frontier Elite 2 and finding the quirks with the various WHD load slaves before I eventually went back to the original from the box. Yeah.
I've taken an alternative approach to shampoo bottles and stuff like that by just losing all my hair. So I can't remember the last time I bought shampoo. It was probably about 10 years ago.
Economical approach as well.
Absolutely.
You can spend more money and time on games.
Exactly.
If it comes to me, for me, time goes really fast as well. I haven't had much time, to be honest, to spend with Amiga. Just a little bit of, like a demos for the Amiga and for 64. There have been some, demo parties, and I wanted to see some demos. Other than that, been really busy with my family and my work and business. So that's that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's move on to the news. A big donation has arrived at the museum, compliments of the computer programmer who owned it. It includes an Amiga 500, a Commodore monitor, a Commodore Amiga monitor cover, which is actually quite cool looking. It's mostly transparent, but with the Amiga logo on it and the rainbow symbol. Lots of boxed games, technical manuals. There's a cool programming series in a book to teach children to program on the Amiga, which I love the idea of. And there's other stuff like that. So thanks to Pat for donating that. Pat was I had a little chat with Pat, and she was really enthusiastic about the Amiga, talking back about the time when they bought it and how they set it up for the kids, and it sort of started off for the kids but became sort of a family favourite, So we'll just pop on a little chat here that I had with Pat at the museum.
Okay, no, I remember Lemmings, okay. I remember the kids playing Monkey Island as well, too.
Monkey Island, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember whenever we first got the Amiga for them, we bought it for a Christmas present. We were actually living in Singapore at the time. Okay. And we kind of set it up that whenever it turned on, it said, Merry Christmas, Cormac and Virgo, because there's a speech synthesizer in it as well. And that in itself was quite mind-blowing, I suppose, at the time as well.
So did you do it together?
My husband and I, no. Well, we've both worked in computers all our lives, and that morning there were whatever 7 or 8 Santa Claus came, whatever, and
so you had prepared before
we had it prepared. We had the computer set up, and they turned it on, and it greeted them.
That's an incredible introduction.
Merry Christmas, Cormac and Virgo. Yeah.
That's incredible. So that was the startup script that you were editing there?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just tinkering around with that now, trying to figure that out. So that's amazing.
Oh, a long time ago. So I'd be very rusty on anything to do with this at all.
So you've given a substantial donation here to the museum.
I honestly can't remember what all's in here. You'll have to go through it all yourself.
So I see a lot of games in here for starters. Alien Breed.
There's a lot of games.
Utopia, Pang, Curse of Enchantia.
And I think the computer originally came with like 500, Amiga 500. Would that be right? Yeah. But the boys brought more memory out of their pocket money at one stage, and it upgraded it.
Right.
And they did that themselves, and we kind of let them do it themselves. So there was some way. Again, my memory's rusty, but there was some way that they could open up and stick a board in underneath or something.
Yeah, there's
like
an expansion slot.
An expansion slot into it. Yeah, so that was a big deal as well. Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with your memory.
So, I can let you go through it, and you can see what.
There's so much in here. So you mentioned Lemmings anyway, so that obviously stands out in your memory.
I remember Lemmings. I loved Lemmings, and I think it's a very clever game as well. I was always disappointed in other computers afterwards. There was never a Lemmings that I found on a PC or anything like that. It was a challenging kind of a game. It was like a puzzle as much as anything, more than a lot of the earlier games that were, either, pick up bits of treasure or shoot 'em up or something like that.
Yeah, like quick reflexes. How fast can you?
And I would try to avoid the I don't think there's many shoot 'em up games in here either, because I would have tried to avoid that. Yeah. I don't know. You probably know a lot of these better than I would. Populous. That looks like one of those sim type games or something there.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a Ferrari game in there as well. Oh, I see Manchester United in there too. That'd be suitable. There's soccer games as well.
Oh yeah, sensible soccer.
So yeah.
So we actually have a competition every year, and in the next one coming, we've two people coming from Malta, and we have people coming to the event from all around, like from Poland, Germany, USA, and there's a trophy for whoever wins the sensible soccer competition at the end.
Okay, great. That's good fun. Yeah. So are there many of you that actually are active using the Amiga?
Yeah, everybody there is either using an actual Amiga or emulating it on their laptop, with an emulator. And so there was 99 of us there at the last one, met up in Athlone, and there's even more of us connected online. But we're focusing on trying to get people to meet in person.
Okay. So I have a few.
And manuals are always a sign of somebody who's gone beyond the games and thinking around.
Well, I was a programmer and most of my life, programmer, systems analyst. I ended up teaching computing. I lectured in university there. So I was always interested in the boys learning basic itself, which is very powerful and very easy and underestimated programming language, really. Yeah.
And a gateway drug for many other languages.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a basic workshop that happens every year, but it allows embedded assembly, so you can go to the next level if you want to, and that's called Blitz Basic. Yeah.
Okay, nice. Great. Yeah. Well, I actually taught basic as well in university as well to the first year BA students as well. Okay. For many years, that was kind of their introductory language, because they weren't really following as technical a track as the BSc students were. But it gave them an opportunity to understand sort of the principles of a language, and what a loop was, iteration, or,
Yeah, and for business students, they could use that in their spreadsheets too,
That's right, yes, link it in, yeah.
Yeah, that's very good.
So good, yeah.
That's very good. This is incredible. You've donated enough for an entire display.
No, that's the monitor.
Okay, so there's a monitor.
It's actually an Amiga monitor.
In an original Commodore Amiga cover as well.
Yeah.
Dust cover.
Yeah, and I don't know what else is there. No, there's like I say, this has been in my attic for quite a while. There's a joystick there by the look of it. It's obviously some kind of a power converter. I don't know. You can poke around and see what. I hope it works. That's the other thing. I don't know that it's going to work, but maybe you can do something about that too.
Yeah. We have some testing and repair facilities here, so we can definitely take a look and test them out. There's people now making new hardware and new software for the Amigas and stuff still, you know.
That just really shows how great a machine it was, that it has lasted and there's still people interested and can get something else out of it that we did all those years ago. Yeah. So I don't know what these are or whether they're...
Looks like a lot of save game discs or something there.
A lot of save games, something like that. I'll let you play with that again. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Yeah.
You're welcome. And I'd love to hear what you do with it as well. So maybe we'll keep in touch with you over
absolutely.
this. Yeah. Certainly he'll come in maybe some evening that you meet once a week?
The first Friday of every month.
Okay.
Thanks a million.
Okay. Good luck.
All the best. Yeah.
See you guys. Take care.
Cool. Yeah, pretty cool for your parents to be able to do that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Mine had trouble putting the bloody Skeletrix tracks together, before, so...
And the big hardware news: the Mega 65 has been announced, and this is currently at the crowdfunding stage. So, so if anyone isn't familiar with the Mega 65, it's basically back in the days of the Commodore 64. This was supposed to be a follow-on to the C64. So Commodore were trying out a load of different things. You know, they had half a dozen different projects on the go, all to replace the Commodore 64, which was their cash cow. And this was one of the solutions that never made it past prototype stage. So there were only 3 or 4 prototypes ever built. But now someone's after recreating them and has basically set up a crowdfunding so that they're going to manufacture these machines. So they've never been manufactured other than the 3 or 4 prototypes. And this is pretty exciting stuff. But it's essentially, it looks like a Commodore 64 with a built-in 3.5-inch floppy drive, which is really, really interesting. Really, really, it's great to see this kind of project coming along.
Very nice.
Very good one. I think I find this C65, like a Mega 65 and C65 project, like a lost project. I think it was a thing that they wanted to release around 1991. As far as I remember, and it was a bit too late for an 8-bit computer. Mind you remember, for example, a computer called Samcoup.
Coupe, yeah.
Yeah, or Coupe, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, it was just it was the time of 16-bit machines, and I'm getting the impression that like C65 looks very similar to Amiga 600, actually.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Yeah, when I say it looks like a C64, I'm thinking of the facelift C64, if you like, the C64C.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right.
And it's taking kind of there was one of the Spectrums had the disk drive facing the user, didn't it? But it was weird. It's a weird 3-inch.
Plus 3 and the Amstrad as well.
Yeah. So if you imagine that, but looking like a Commodore machine, and that's essentially it. But yeah, cool.
Right, we've got another hardware project, and this time is the machine called the C64. So on the market, there have been so many, recreations, like PlayStation Mini, SNES Mini, NES Mini, I think Sega Mega Drive. There was even C64 Mini, and now there's a full-fledged version of C64. The machine inside itself is an FPGA recreation of a C64 with games included as well. And the release date is planned on December 2019. So there you go. Another one.
Just in time for Christmas.
Yeah, just in time for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Prepare your TVs.
Yeah.
And just announced is the Commodore 63, which has been announced on Kickstarter. That's joking.
66, 67.
Okay, I'll be serious. A new mouse driver for OS4 has been released. There has been code cleanup and new features for Logitech Cherry mice.
This is interesting because what it does is it lets you use this sort of the extra features of specific to the mice rather than just being a new driver for a mouse. You know what I mean? Those mice work as standard mice when you plug them in. But this lets you use the way in some mice you can tilt the scroll wheel left and right and scroll left and right and things like that. So it lets you use those kind of functions, and the extra buttons lets you attach functions to them. So that's what this is about, rather than, just making those mice work. So
that's
yeah.
right. And
But
if you want to
it's
follow the
handy.
link here, it'll tell you what models of mice are. I think there's a few Logitechs and a Cherry possibly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But yeah, handy functions though.
Very handy, I think. Yeah.
Right, next we've got the Snoop DOS, which is our very own Eddie Carroll's creation originally. That this has had a recent update. So this update is only it's a small thing, but it fixes a problem where you can get a lockup where Snoop DOS itself causes a deadlock in the OS and causes basically a file transaction to never complete, and therefore freezing your hard drive access or whatever you happen to be accessing. And so, the only way out of that is reboot. So it was a rare case, but there's been a fix for that, or an update released that fixes that problem. And that update is by Thomas Richter, who's one of the 3.1.4 core developers and OS4 developers. So one of the heavy hitters. He also worked on 3.9 and does the MMU libraries and various different, or one of the shell replacements, and it's one of the heavy hitters, as I say.
Also, Volker Vertic has written an online article on how the resource broker works in the Settlers. It's central to understanding how to build the economy, and the article gives a thorough example. And this is good timing since the new game itself is coming out. We'll have a similar resource broker.
This is sort of a placeholder for a news item, I guess. But you might have noticed on the forums that there was a countdown to a release of an update for OS 3.1.4. It hasn't been released. It was supposed to be released on Monday, and it hasn't been released. And apparently that is kind of stuck somewhere in the works, waiting to be uploaded effectively. So keep an eye out for that. Should be any day now, I hope. Or maybe. We'll see. But yeah, so this is supposed to be fixing a lot of the sort of
Fingers
little niggles
Fingers
that
crossed.
came along, obviously with a major update.
I've got a question, because you seem to be following the thread regarding OS 3.14. Do you think people will have to burn their ROMs once again?
I can't imagine it. I'd imagine it's a new...
Is it like, like a Boeing balls for 3.9?
I'd imagine it's going to be a new set patch, which will sort all the things out, because that was how it used to be done.
That's good then.
But I don't know. But I would expect that's what it is, because there are a lot of people with ROMs out there that are, that don't have the ability to burn them, and it's a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah, that's right. That's okay.
And that's set patch's job, is to fix the problems that are in the ROM that can't be fixed otherwise.
That's
so.
Really...
So it should be
That's
fine.
Good. That's really good. Yeah.
But as you see with like 3.5 and 3.9, there's precious little in the ROMs that can't be bypassed. So, one way or another. So,
The two main problems I've been having with 3.1.4, one is graphical issues. Sometimes some corruption on the screen, a little tear here or there that follows the screen up and down when you pull it, the workbench screen or whatever. And the other one is with reboots, soft rebooting. And I don't know if this is just my motherboard, because I did have the odd problem with this before anyway with 3.1, but now it's a lot worse. And basically soft reboot, when I do a soft reboot, I just get a corrupted kind of colored garbage on the screen. And when I do the hard reboot afterwards, my clock, my RTC had its time reset to some wrong time and date. The day is right. The clock is wrong. Yeah. It is. It might not be to do with 3.1.4. It could be something with my motherboard,
Does sound hardware-ish or, potentially accelerator-related.
Or mixture of both.
Oh, it might be provoked by 3.1.4.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, thank. And, like a... that might be the case.
Now, I know that on the ACA 1221 from... what's called individual computers, you can attach an RTC directly on there. I don't know if moving it might help.
Have you tried attaching it both to either to motherboard or to your ACA?
Only the motherboard.
Try the ACA then.
And it works fine. Like I turn off the machine, I turn it back on a day or two later, and the date and the time are accurate. But if I do a soft reboot, the time gets totally warped to whatever, some other hour altogether. Like it's not even the time it was 2 minutes ago when I rebooted it. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Sometimes there's a whole, when you do reboot, there's a whole reset sequence the hardware does, and it's the same when you power it up. And it could potentially be some issue with that it's not doing what it should do for whatever reason. I can't see what it could be, but it feels like there's something there that's not happening properly. The reset's not completing properly.
For those reasons, I'm still sticking with 3.1 because the compatibility with demos, with the old demos, and the WHD load games. So I've got my systems prepared for 3.1, so I'm still sticking up to that. I'll wait. We'll see. Maybe I'll jump on 3.14 at some point, but I'm happy with 3.1 and 3.9.
Oh, I'll tell you another interesting thing. Now that you mentioned demos, in the last episode, you put me on to a demo launcher, Luke, an automated thing.
That's right.
And it doesn't support 3.1.4 because the requester is not compatible. It doesn't work on it.
Oh my!
Yeah.
Oh my! Really?
Oh.
Yeah.
I think is there an easy workaround for that?
So when you say the requester doesn't work,
yeah.
What do you mean? Like a disk requester?
Let's see. It's one of the requesters. Yeah, it's either the disk requester or a file requester. I think it's a file requester. One of those libraries.
Yeah.
So it's one of the caveats on the download side. So by the way, be due to an incompatibility with the requester, file requester on 3.1.4. This only works with 3.1. So
that's mad.
Yeah, so it looks like someone fixed a bug that a lot of software is depending on. Has happened sometimes.
Or added features, because even 3.9 has a different file requester to 3.1.
Yeah, therefore I've got a separate partition of very, very clean and basic installation of 3.1, because some of the demos actually are written, a straight for 3.1. That's the case. And some of the demos are just incompatible with 3.5 or 3.9.
Mm-hmm.
So we just have to live with that and keep a small partition of 3.1.
Absolutely.
That's the thing, I think, yeah.
Another advantage, as I was saying earlier, of having, historical partitions. So I do the same. I have about 3 or 4 partitions on every machine because, storage is cheap and the systems are tiny. And, so all the previous versions sitting there. So, if they ever have problems with something, I can just reboot into an earlier version.
And you just boot with,
nice.
Both buttons pressed and there you go.
So that actually kind of raises an interesting question about development because, I'm by no means a hardcore developer at all. But when it comes to patching bugs for new releases on an operating system that applications are being coded to, your APIs and things like that, something that might obviously be a bug. And I'm not saying that's the case here in 3.1.4, but I mean, there's obviously a bigger question when it comes to fixing a bug, I imagine.
Yeah, well, it's the thing is, there are of course going to be bugs. So, I've never seen it, so I don't know, the nature of it. And it could very easily be a bug or some sort of funny interaction that's happening there.
Oh, what I mean is let's say there was a decision made. Okay, we're releasing a new version of, let's say, Mac OS or something different, right? And let's fix this old bug here. That's something unusual that happens on the system level, and then old apps might not behave as expected as a result.
Well, that's the thing is that the API shouldn't shift. You know what I mean? Any new functions are in addition to the existing functions so all the legacy stuff is still there. Whether the behavior changes because they fixed a bug in the API is and that has happened in the past and has happened probably with 3.1.4 as well. Where there was a bit of a weird behavior and software was written to rely on that or has its own built-in workaround that isn't needed anymore. So, you might get situations like that. So it could easily be, something that was fixed and inadvertently broke something else or was fixed and something depended on the broken version. Yeah, it's the joys of it all, especially in Amiga land where sort of nothing's off limits.
Yeah.
But yeah, at a high level, the API won't have changed.
Okay, fair enough.
It's just the guts that are tripping things up.
Okay, what do we have next?
Last news item for this episode. Enhancer software package for OS 4.1 has had an update. So this is getting, fairly regular updates. And it's basically it's updating a lot of the system components that aren't, there hasn't been an update for 4.1 in, I think, 2 years or something like that. So this package is a separate thing by Aeon and Amiga kit. So it's got some pretty serious updates to system components, including, the updated AMD graphics card drivers and, a lot of minor stuff like data types, multi-view and file system updates and things. There's a lot of sort of in behind updates. So if you have 4.1 and you have that, it's probably well worth downloading. I haven't looked at it myself. It's nice to see it's getting updated all the same.
Right, let's move on to the gaming section.
Right, Relentless is very nice, fast-paced shoot 'em up game for C64 with a very, very nice graphics as well. The game itself took part in a competition called RGCD. The graphics is nice, the pace is very quick, and I think it's a conversion from CPC Amstrad, so I look forward to that one to try it on my C64.
Ice Cold Beer is a cartridge game for the Commodore 64 that's released for the Cartridge Game Development Competition of 2019. Indie Retro News has the details on this and a video where you can see the mechanics. It's a very simple game, but a very fun game. It would work equally well on a smartphone. You basically are manipulating a level, and there's a ball moving back and forth, and this is happening inside a pint of beer. A very tempting looking pint of beer, actually. It's making me thirsty looking at it. And it actually looks like a game that you could play quite a bit, even though it sounds simplistic.
There's a new Zelda Fan Game that's being released for the Amiga. So this is a port. There are a few of these games that are knocking around in the sort of in PC realm and on other platforms, and we're getting regular ports of them to the various Amiga platforms. So, but this one is Navi's Quest. I haven't played it yet, but I will be definitely downloading that and giving it a go. And these are all based on the sort of the graphic styling of Link to the Past, which was the SNES Zelda game, and and one of the best. It's a fantastic game. Even now, like it's just the graphics are beautiful. They're it's really well styled, and it's and so these modern fan made games are all using these graphics, and there've been a few of them now. So this is definitely worth checking out. Now it does use SDL, which means part of the reason it's quite a heavy game. So it does need a powerful Amiga to run it. So
you were talking about Zelda earlier on as well, the introduction there. Does it measure up to your expectations? Well,
I haven't played this one, but the other ones of that ilk that I might talk about in a little while as well are they're pretty good. They don't have quite the the polish, I'd say, but they are very, very good. And it's essentially, if you think of it as like a sort of a level pack for the original SNES game, that's basically what it is. So, plays quite well. It is very well done. It's nice just to have a bit of variety if you've played through the original one a couple of times, to have the map moved around a bit and a few new puzzles.
Yeah, I've never played Zelda, but I've seen, the odd bit of someone else playing, and it does have that kind of unique thing to it. So it'd be nice to give it a go.
Yeah. But yeah, if you've never played it, even the Super Nintendo one, if you have it on an emulator, it's a great game.
Released for all of the four main Amiga systems, OS3, OS4, AROS, and Morphos, is Africa. And this game supports multiple languages, including English, German, Greek, and Italian. It's a board game from 1977 that I've actually never come across before. It was produced by 3W. Up to 5 players can play the game, and they can be AI opponents or a human, if you can find a human to play with you. Each player represents a power trying to establish or retain influence by interfering in the economic stability and political alliances of nations. And you can also subsidize, other nations, the enemy of my enemy and that kind of thing. And the players attempt to extend their political control of Africa. So you can set up governments, encourage revolutions, start wars between nations, introduce armies, classical colonial stuff, really. So if you're comfortable playing a game like that, you might enjoy this tile-based strategy game. And that's it for the gaming section. Let's move on to discoveries. A Frontier Elite save game editor is something I discovered recently, and it will convert saved game files from Frontier Elite to hex files, and then you can just use a binary editor to mess around. Now, you need to understand the You need to have knowledge of binary editing and, you know, knowledge of the structure. But so it's not a complete solution, but it gets you that far. And this was made by John Gervin, which is funny because I've met John, you know, at the last two Amiga Irelands, and I didn't realise he had made a kind of some prolific uploads to Aminet. Mm-hmm. Another one he did was a trainer or patch for Alien Breed 3D, and it was Angus on Twitter who let me know about that one actually. And he did this like properly. He got the, you know, permission of Team 17 to release it, and there's quite a few enhancements and improvements. So yeah, fair play to you, John. That's a nice contribution there.
I'm trying to figure out if I've had this as a discovery before, but it's something I had discovered a while ago. Seems we're on a theme. These Zelda Fan Game ports that have been ported to the Amiga. So we have Return of the Hylian, believe that is how it's pronounced now, and Oni Link Begins and they're available for OS3 and OS4, and I presume MorphOS as well. Actually, I'm sure it is. And Time to Triumph is on OS4 and probably MorphOS as well. So these are three games. I think Return of the Hylian is the first one that was done like this. It's done in the SNES style, and it's very well done. And well worth checking out all of them if you're a Zelda fan, because you'll be instantly familiar. Which
would you say would be a good starting point for someone like me, Rob, who's never played Zelda, to go with one of these fan game ports or the previous one you mentioned there? I
would say go with the original to start with, because you
get NES version,
a lot of the story, and there's a very rich and very deep sort of intricately interlaced story between all the characters and stuff like that. And there's one of the things that sort of lacks a little bit of depth in the fan games, but it's not really criticism. It's just once you know the kind of the style and the structure of the game, I think it's better to go that way.
Okay, thanks.
Right, my discovery is UHC Tools. UHC Tools is a collection of programs and scripts for the Amiga, and it requires internet connection. It installs actually, like a scripts on your Amiga and just tiny tools, and thanks to those, you can actually download a lot of stuff from Aminet, MorphOS Storage, OS4 Depot, WHD Load, Amiga Scene Modland, and a couple of more to your Amiga directly from your shell. If you don't want to run, your browser or your Amiga is just too slow, but you still have the internet connection, I would strongly suggest to use it. It's very useful.
I'm going to give that a go after this recording, actually.
Please do.
Mm-hmm. Another discovery I found recently is really nice. It's called the Complete A1200 User's Guide. And we have the link here on our webpage. This is by Peter Hutchinson. It explains all about Workbench in the kind of simple language, and it also covers the motherboard components, again in simple language. I think this should be included in every A1200 being sold today, particularly to non-technical people. If you're asking a question or for help online, somebody might reference a particular piece of hardware and you might not know. So like this stuff is actually handy to know. And it'll let you know where everything is placed, what each chip is on the motherboard, what its job is. It was written in 2010, so like there's some parts like this. The chapter on accelerators is a little outdated already, but it's a very good manual. I think it would even have been good with the original Amiga 1200s to have been shipped with. So yeah, good job. My final discovery. Oh no, it's not my final discovery. So I was on Amiga Love there recently, which is a very nice forum. It looks very nice, and it's mobile friendly. And somebody mentioned something called Grim Image Processor, and I'm sorry I can't mention the person who it is, but it's a graphics package. It supports over 15 file formats that it can load, and it can save in over 7. And it saves animations too in different formats like Ham8, MPEG, FLC. So like immediately that stands out among a lot of the well-known graphics applications. So that's something that I plan to spend a bit more time with. And it's got lots of filters and effects to kind of enhance and correct images. Some of them have the absolute, the real kind of classic, slightly 80s, 90s looks of them. And some of them then are more useful again. So yeah, Grim Image Processors are taking a look at. Finally, Pipe is a package available on Aminet, which any of you who use Linux or Mac terminal will be used to the ability to pipe commands, where you can run one command in one line. You can issue two commands and have the first program's output piped as the input to the second program. And pipe allows you to do that, and it also allows you to just queue programs, which is what I was looking for. So I was trying to take a screenshot, but I needed a time delay to arrange things or move the screens the way I wanted them. And for reasons I won't go into, I had to start the screenshot command first. So what I wanted to do is issue a wait command, so you can type in your shell, wait 5, press return, and for 5 seconds the shell won't do anything and then it'll come back. So this allows me to type wait 5 and then 2 vertical lines, space, and then screenshot. And it took my screenshot for me, and it meant using that format I could add it to a drop-down menu in Workbench. So that's pipe 1.5 on Aminet.net.
It's nice because there is a pipe handler that's built into Workbench and into the OS, but it doesn't quite work as well. It works as a handler, as a device in a very Amiga fashion, but it doesn't lend itself to doing the pipe symbol in the shell or anything like that. So it's nice. It's nice to have the proper thing.
For certain things, it's just it's really nice. Right, let's move on to events. A retro gaming night is being hosted at the Computer Museum in Galway on Friday the 5th of July. Amiga Ireland are running their monthly gaming event there, and we'll be powering up the Amigas, the Commodore 64s, and we'll also be using Diagram to diagnose a problem with at least one member's machine and some other software to see what we can find out about it and what we can change. It's a machine we've been making some improvements on up until now, and there seems to be just a little bit more to go, so hopefully Diagram will give us the information there. So if you're around on the 5th of July, it's 5:30 at the Insight Centre in Newcastle. Right, let's move on to Ask Amiga.
Okay, so this is Hirla's question, and it's related to what he was just mentioning there. But it's basically how to grab a screenshot of Ami speed test and screenshot stuff in general. So, well, to start off with, Ami speed test isn't released yet, but it's by our very own Carl Jekyll. Basically, it's kind of what you expect. It's a network speed testing thing, like the speed test websites that you go to check how fast your internet connection is. So it does all this sort of finding your nearest host and various sized uploads and downloads and gets an average speed for you. And it's simple enough, but I'm surprised there isn't anything that's like that on the Amiga already. But it's a really great thing. But it opens on its own screen when in a window that doesn't have a title, and it makes it a little bit funky to grab it using shell commands. Basically, what I would say is the easiest way to sort that out is to use sgrab for all your screen grabbing needs. It's kind of the do everything screen grabber for the Amiga, and it has been for me anyway for I would say at least since the mid-90s, so quite a while. It's a very flexible, very very good tool, and it lists all the screens and the windows, and so you can highlight the window you want and then click grab and it will take the screenshot. But it has a built-in delay function if you want, so you can add any number of seconds onto it. So you can click grab, switch to your screen and do whatever you need to do, and 10 seconds later or whatever, it will take the screenshot. So it can also save in PNGs, which is great for directly uploading to a website or anything like that, because it's great. So it can take in JPEGs, PNGs, or IFFs, and and I've been using it for a long time. I bind it to keys, like on OS 4, because I've got a PC keyboard. I've got the print screen button, and so Alt print screen takes the current window, and print screen takes the current screen. And so it just saves it under the name of the screen and the size and the date or something like that, but basically in a folder. But you can do the very same thing on OS 3.9 with THE, or you can even install that in 3.5, I think. But THE is the hotkey editor, and that was a contribution to the 3.9 CD, as far as I remember. But it's sort of one of those essential programs that you should have. But there's another alternative, which is Personal Paint, and that will let you grab into, when you open Personal Paint, that has, I think in the very first menu, has a grab screen item. and that will grab whatever screen you want and import it, and then you can save it or cut it, crop it, whatever you need to do. And it's also good for grabbing a palette of a screen, which is handy if you want to be matching palettes to, if you want to use a public screen and you want to use existing pens and stuff. So it's so that's another option, which is quite useful and underutilized, I would say.
Yeah, I'm going to have that on this evening. Thanks for that, Rob. Let's move on to online activity. Okay, so our top tweet, our most popular tweet on Twitter was about a bug experienced in Frontier Elite 2. I had a really interesting time with my Frontier drama. The latest WHD load had a problem where message boards would actually show the contents of the stock market after a couple of runs between Bernard Starr and what's the other one? Was it Ross 154? And there was no way to, I tried leaving the planet surface and I tried redocking, I tried letting time pass. No, I just couldn't get it to clear up. There were no missions or passengers available. I could have kept trading because the stock market itself was working, but that would kind of make the game a bit boring. So anyway, I tried a CD32 version. The problem with that was that the combat and the map weren't as easy to use on the CD32. The map navigation was slower, and there was something about the combat that was just a bit jerkier or something. So I couldn't, it just made the space battle more frustrating. So then I tried the special edition I found online that was released by Frontier Developments, I think. And it wouldn't accept the mouse or joystick input on my Amiga.
No.
So, I put a lot of time into this because I tried, maybe a new file, maybe a new game file, maybe an old save game file, let's try this. Or maybe let's try one of a save game file from the internet for that version that somebody else is using. So anyway, at my wit's end, I turned to the internet, and many thanks to the Amiga Rama podcast, actually, to Lefarius and Muad'Dib for help. Ultimately, using the original game from the box solved my problem, for now at least.
Usually helps.
Yeah.
Well, it's one of those few games that actually was ready to be installed on the hard drive from the box, because it's literally just an executable. There's nothing else to it. There's no extra files. There's no encryption or anything like that. It's just drag the file over and away you go.
I didn't actually expect the disc to work because it's so old and the box is, but yeah, it was fine. Yeah, and thanks to Angus also on Twitter for help. And at that point, I'd lost so much time, I was a bit dispirited. So that's when I downloaded John Gervin's Ami SGE, which lets you edit the save game file. I thought, I'm going to bump myself up 2,000 credits or 5,000 credits here just to, just to stop me getting annoyed with the game. But anyway, there you go. That was the drama, and that was the top tweet. The top Facebook post was Seamus's battle of the joysticks between a Quickshot Python 1 and a Zipstick. If you have a preference, you can go there and vote yourself. And thanks to Seamus, Mark and Johnny for topping the polls of group interaction on Facebook, and everybody else who keeps the Facebook alive and kicking there by posting and commenting.
Zipstick.
Quick shot.
Actually, I think Thomas from KA Plus is a Python guy as well. I think he was using that in Sensible Soccer. Yeah. I was a Python person actually, but looking back, I think I'd find the Zipstick easier to use.
Yeah, but that's you guys. That's you guys in the West. We in Central Europe, it was just, if you talk to anyone from Poland and you give him a Zipstick, he would say could I have the quick shot? Because I just don't know how to play Sensible Soccer with a Zipstick.
Oh yeah,
it's just me as well. And I had a conversation with him, and he said could I get this quick shot? Because I just don't feel it. Right. It's just us down there because we didn't have Zipsticks.
That's an interesting observation, actually.
We didn't have Zipsticks in Poland. Or if we had them, they were absolutely very, very expensive, and we just used quick shots. They were just literally everywhere. Every computer store had it, and everyone was using them.
That's mad.
Later on, there were some a Polish companies that started producing joysticks. There was a company called Matt. I think they still produce those joysticks even after 25 or 30 years. You can get them brand new, sealed.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that some of the new joysticks, the remakes you get online, aren't as responsive in the same way, and I don't know, I can't remember which brands those were, so I'm kind of iffy, but I do need a new joystick, so yeah. I have to say though, the Python was like something out of flying a spaceship. It was just the coolest thing to have when you're a teenager, like. Right, we've got some new members in the Facebook group. So hello to Miss Mad Lemon, Daniel, Heiko Bauman, Chris Fowles, Phase 101,
Anthony Benjamin, Jason King, David Fowler, and Marvin Drugsma.
Philip Burke, Playavelli, and Marcus Paul.
Yeah, welcome everybody. Yeah, I'm on a slight holiday from the internet because the weather is so nice, but I'll be participating a bit more later on. Right. Okay, until next time.
And music was by Virtual Dimensions and by Banjo Guy Ollie.
Please leave us a review wherever you find us. The song of the month came 5th place at Amiga Ireland 2019 by Niku4211, titled 2019 Be the Last. We're going to have an interview released soon, actually. Luke, do you want to tell us who the interview's with?
Peter Mulholland actually is a friend of mine. He lives here in Norwich, and he's been a very helpful guy. He's been recapping all our Amigas in our Norwich Amiga group, and he's got some pretty interesting stuff regarding the past of certain games. So I won't be telling you what games, because I don't want to spoil the interview for you, but there are some really good ones. Also some stuff regarding, programming as well. So, stay tuned, and I hope you'll enjoy it.
Great, and that'll be out in 2 weeks' time, and we'll be back together for our normal episodes in a month's time. So until then, bye-bye.
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 Go on, Rob. Help me.
No, you're on your own.
You're doing really well.
Thanks.